One of the things we do in the portfolio sales game is to go out into the market and find value. Our buyers are looking to deploy capital and buy properties in certain areas and certain cap rates, but more or less they're really looking for value where it can be found. And our job in finding portfolios is to talk to owners who are would-be sellers, analyze their portfolios, and find what the value is. Right now we're going to talk about a Memphis portfolio. That's a great portfolio. It's about 55 properties in Memphis, Tennessee, put together by a local investor who knows the neighborhoods, knows the areas that are in highest demand for rental properties, what the schools are, what the crime stats are, and he was able to put together this portfolio of nice properties at moderate yields that's well maintained, well managed, and now that he's assembled this portfolio, he's looking for an exit. And my job in talking to him is not only finding him, but also talking to him about how to price the portfolio, how to package the portfolio, which we do through ownamerica.com. And once we have it packaged correctly and priced correctly, I need to basically show that portfolio and espouse the value of that portfolio to our buyer base. So we're going to take a look today at this Memphis portfolio. I think it's a great one, so here it goes. Okay, so we're going to review the Memphis portfolio that we just listed. When I look at this portfolio, the first thing I like to do is just look at the map to find out how closely compacted and how closely centered the portfolio is around a certain location. And you can see that this is a portfolio that is pretty tightly concentrated in the suburbs outside of Memphis. One thing that I know about Memphis is, a lot of the quote-unquote investment properties that are located in Memphis, they're generally located inside the I-40 loop. So, you can see most of these properties are outside in these suburban areas, which is exactly the kind of areas that people like to invest in because the neighborhoods are a little bit better quality, schools better quality, lower crime. So this portfolio, just from a bird's eye perspective, it's great because most of it's located in these bedroom communities in and around Memphis. One of the things I look at, right after the map is, just the pictures of the properties, looking at what kind of quality properties they are. And I think something that stood out to me about this portfolio is these are all nice starter homes, middle of the road properties that, they're not too flashy, they're not too higher end, but again, they're not really low ends. They're right smack dab in the middle. Where the next things I look at are the yields on the property. So our system actually lists yields from highest yield to lowest yield. So you see that this portfolio has some really nice high yielding properties in it. The average property is going to be about $120,000, $130,000. The issue with this portfolio is there's a bunch of lower yielding properties in it that bring down the overall yield. One of the great things you could do with our system is you could look at properties that are kind of bringing down the overall yield on the portfolio and actually take them out. So let's just play with the numbers and let's see if we took out, 5 or 6 of the lowest yielding properties, what it does to the overall yield on the portfolio. So now the properties that are left in the portfolio after I took out these lower yielding properties, now the gross yield's up there a little bit. 11.31% gross yield, 6.95% net yield. Now that we looked at the portfolio from a bird's eye view and looked at the financials, what I like to do is then go to the market data. And this is kind of where the fun part begins. Now in Shelby County, where most of these properties are located, that's where Memphis is, you'll see that during the upswing, during the boom times, it didn't really boom that big, but it got absolutely hammered during the correction. And now during the recovery, it's returned pretty much to equilibrium, kind of at the halfway, a little above the halfway point between where it was and kind of where it started 10 years ago. So overall, price performance in the market has been pretty steady. So when people think about Memphis, they don't think about a high appreciated market. They think more about cash flow. They buy Memphis for cash flow. So obviously the net yields that you get in Memphis have to be a lot higher than other markets around the country because people can't bank on appreciation. So then you look at the population change. And this isn't a great chart. It doesn't really bode well for population growth in Memphis. But here's what I found out. So even though population has been trending down ever since 2012, the total population in Memphis, Tennessee is currently, as of 2017, 652,000 people. But if you look at the
population change as it trends downward, the amount of people leaving year over year isn't tremendous. It's a very small fraction. People aren't fleeing Memphis by any means in droves. Unemployment in Memphis isn't much higher than in the state of Tennessee as a whole. You see, the state of Tennessee has an unemployment rate of about 5%, and the unemployment rate in Shelby County is 5.5%, so not a huge differential there. But what really kind of drives the market are two things, and one of those things is job growth, job diversity. And you see that in Memphis, it's got a very solid job diversity. What I always like to do is kind of look at who the top employers are in the market, and kind of figure out if I see any names that I recognize. And you can see here FedEx is a big employer in Memphis. A company called ServiceMaster that does residential and commercial services for real estate. St. Jude's Children's Hospital, obviously a very notable name. So you have healthcare, obviously a big employer in Memphis. So these are companies that are in segments of the economy that are generally considered pretty stable. You know, automotive, healthcare, manufacturing. So I look at this portfolio and I look at tight concentration in good areas of Memphis, nice properties in those markets, and then you look at the yields and the financials and you see that they're solid. You're at a starting net yield and gross yield which is decent. Population change hasn't been great, but it's not horrible by any means. And my theory on Memphis is it's gotten a bad rap. It's kind of the redheaded stepchild of Tennessee, you know, Nashville being the big older jock brother that gets all the accolades. And then you have Chattanooga, which is kind of coming up and is known as being a tech hub down in the southeast. But Memphis gets kind of no respect, you know, even though cost of living there is a lot lower than in Nashville and in Chattanooga, and the yields for investors are a lot higher. That's why I think investors are, you know, kind of getting out of Nashville right now and going to markets like Memphis. All in all, I'm excited about this portfolio. I think it's solid, and we're going to be marketing it heavily, and you know, just bringing this valuable portfolio to our buyer base. See if we can get it moved for the seller.
Now that we have a well-packaged, well-priced portfolio that I think has value, and value that I'm happy and proud to present to the buyers that look on Own America for opportunities, it's just a matter of marketing it. So we set this portfolio out via our matchmaker about 3 days ago. I spent time hammering the phones, calling all the buyers that are actively looking in Memphis, finding out what they're looking for, talking to them about the merits of the portfolio. And after 3 days, we ended up getting a couple of offers on this portfolio. And what we're going to be doing over the next few days is talking to the seller about the offer, getting a counter offer or some kind of a response from the seller so we can put it back in the buyer's court and hopefully allow buyer and seller to come together at a price that's going to make sense for both of them so we can put it under contract and go to the next phase. So this is the fun part. Thanks for watching this portfolio review. The next step will be showing the negotiating process over the phone so you can get a better look at what we do here. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to see when that comes out.